Welcome to the RD2BE podcast. Each week we sit down with a different registered dietitian nutritionist to showcase the diversity of opportunity in the dietetics profession. Our aim is to dismantle the notion that there is a traditional career path. I'm Carl Barnes, the registered dietitian behind the scenes of RD2BE.
And I am Jenna Warnock, the RD2BE host. Our RD guests share their stories, career paths, and advice to help students like us succeed in the profession. Welcome back to another week of the RD2BE podcast. I'm your host, Jenna Warnock, and we're super excited to showcase another dietetic internship this week. So this week we're sitting down with Matt Malouin and Elissa Lerma. They are the director and coordinator of Nutrition Ink's Dietetic Internship. Thank you guys so much for taking time to talk about your program with us today.
Thanks for having us.
And so I thought that this was super cool about you guys. You guys were first initially friends before kind of working together. And so how did you two end up working together to run Nutrition Ink's Dietetic Internship?
All right, so this is one of my favorite stories. And it starts back in the early 2000s, right? Back in 03?
3 or 4.
So I was a fan of this punk rock band out of LA, and I would go to their shows. And back then, like, the internet wasn't like it was now. They had things called street teams where fans would go and meet with the band and pass out flyers or whatever. So this band loses their bass player, and at one of the street team meetings, the new bass player shows up, and it's Matt. We're both Scorpios, we're about the same age, and we got along really well. So we started to become friends over AOL AIM. I don't know if anybody remembers that or even knows what that is.
You just dated us.
I know, right? But it's just like back in the day, instant messaging, because cell phones, you had to wait till like 9 p.m. and weekends to use cell phones, and texting cost like 10 cents a text.
Yeah, we had that T9 text. Remember that? How awful that was?
So we were all about the chatting. We got to know each other, and his band was at Warped Tour, and everybody knows the band's Warped Tour, and he was with this beautiful boy, and found out that guy was his roommate. And so I had my eyes set on the roommate. We ended up dating, ended up getting married. So
Had a ton of kids.
we had 2 kids. So, it kind of, connected Matt and I's friendship even further than that. I married his best friend.
Mm-hmm.
The years went on, and I moved out to this area out in the Inland Empire where Matt is from. And Matt was working for Nutrition Ink, a consulting company. His band was going back on tour, and he asked if I wanted to just kind of take over his job while he was gone, because I was still looking for something out here.
Just a summer job.
Yeah, just a summer job. So that was back in 2004. I've been with the company ever since.
Yeah, actually, she was so good at what she does, they fired me upon return.
So yeah. So he went out and he did this thing. He went to college. He got his master's degree. He became an RD. He worked, I don't know how many RD jobs, a few different
Kind of
jobs.
bounced around a little bit at the beginning of my career, figured out what I was good at, what my specialty was, and food service isn't for everyone. Nursing homes aren't for everyone. It takes a while to figure out like what you actually want to do as a dietitian.
So when we developed the internship program back in 2016, we went through a couple of directors, and it wasn't a good fit. It wasn't a good fit to work with what we kind of wanted to do. And so we, in fact, my husband said, what about bringing Matt on as the director of the program? And we were like, yeah, that sounds perfect. So
He's a really smart guy.
yeah. So he came in, and it was the missing piece of the puzzle. Like, that's when everything kind of clicked. The program finally became everything that I thought it could be. And it's that's how we ended up working the program together.
And the whole reason the program became what she thought it could be was the old director just didn't have a lot of trust in Elissa.
Yeah.
And she wasn't using her skills to the best she could. And Elissa's just amazing at keeping us organized and just seeing the big picture of everything. And my first thing when I did was when I came in, I just needed to know like how it ran. And Elissa was so out of the loop in it. It was kind of cool though, because both of us got to learn the program together, and then we built it into our program, not just my program or the director's program or the company's. It's really kind of our baby at this point.
Definitely. And like building off of each other's strengths for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it's not just that, but there's obviously mutual respect, but we really just, we trust each other, and we trust the decisions that we make, and it makes the program, and even for our interns, just things seem to move faster. We can make decisions very quickly, and make sure that our interns are constantly progressing through the program without having to hold it up and have meetings or whatever we need to do.
Definitely.
Yeah, like helps with the communication, helps with running the business. Like I'm sure I think it's great also just working with your friend in any capacity. I think that's just a great like touch, and especially for a dietetic internship. And like with what you mentioned, it kind of reflects in the benefits, also reflect onto the interns where you're able to like, have the most efficient, effective program for them, like in using your your friendship as a benefit for your internship. And so I think we were great to kind of establish that context and the kind of background into where Nutrition Inc.'s dietetic internship came from. And so now kind of getting into little technical questions, and I'm sure a lot of listeners are wondering about your internship. And so a really great thing that your internship has is that you offer a lot of spots for interns. So you offer 35 spots. And so on average, how many students apply to your program versus the 35 that are accepted?
It's about 50-ish.
Yeah,
every year.
It varies every year, but I said average about 50.
Although this year I think we're looking at about half
Yeah.
because of the new master's requirements. So.
Yeah. Also, here's a quick question too. Do you guys participate in both spring and fall match or just one or the other?
Just spring.
Okay, gotcha. Awesome. And then we'll talk a little bit more about the master's degree, like 2024 changes a little bit down the road. But but for now, we're going to talk about the supervised practice hours in particular. So for the 1,000 hours an intern has to complete for the internship, do you know like the average length that it takes for students to complete it, and kind of using the shortest length that you've seen completed versus the longest?
So our program is usually a 10-month program, and I would say the average amount of interns can complete it in the 10 months. So people are graduating towards the end of June. We incorporated a tutoring course at the end of our program. So that kind of extended another 4 weeks for everybody, because it's a 4-week online RD exam tutoring course that we have all our interns go through before they finish with us. So I think that kind of extends everybody through June. Most people are done with their hours by like April or May. The fastest we've ever seen anyone complete the program was in 6 months. We had an intern who had been dropped from her program. The program had just stopped. They decided not to do it because I believe it was because of COVID, and they just ended it midway. And so she just was left without a program. So when she came to us, she was determined to finish as quickly as possible. So she was done in February. And then I think the longest we have is 15 months, and we've had a few who have gone all the way to those 15 months to finish. And we try to stay as flexible as we can. A lot of times we'll see people take that extension because they had something come up during the year, personally, or maybe they got sick, or someone in their family got sick, or
had a baby.
So yeah, we've had some interns who've had a baby, or had a wedding, or whatever it may be. But most of them are going to finish within that 10-month time.
Just really happy.
Yeah.
Nothing like a brand new baby and doing your internship at the same time. A lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's great how you emphasize like the flexibility aspect. And I think yes, distance internships can seem pretty daunting, where it's like, oh, I have to plan everything, I have to coordinate everything and organize everything. But really, it's like, it's still an internship. You still have a coordinator and you still have a director, you still have people supporting you, but you get that flexibility for in case you have a child or you have a wedding. Like, it's great to emphasize the fact that you don't let their life just get casted to the wayside. You still prioritize, hey, they're a human and they still have a life outside of the program, which I think is a great thing to emphasize. And it's not like you're signing 50 weeks away where you're working 40 hours a week. And I think it's great that you guys offer that like flexibility and wide range.
And I think both of us, we have a lot of lived experiences that happen during our own school careers, and I went to a state school for undergrad, and state schools are very rigid. And I kind of chafed against all these seemingly arbitrary rules. And so when it came time to design our program and our rules, we thought why do we have to do it that way, right? What's the purpose of having this hard and fast deadline when in reality, interns, they're adults and they can decide for themselves when they're going to finish, when they're going to complete an assignment. We encourage people, get it done early, get everything, in hand early, because it's going to make your life easier. But at the end of the day, you're an adult and you're the one who makes that ultimate call. And, we respect that. And if you want to get married in the middle of it, if you want to have a kid in the middle of it, you want to buy a house in the middle of it. We've seen all these things that are just, enormous stressors, both positive and negative stressors to an intern. And, I can give you my advice and say you should or shouldn't do this, but we're not going to come and say you can't do this, right? We're going to give you that opportunity, even to fail. If you need to fail to learn, to grow, then, more power to you.
Definitely. And if anything, that can help alleviate maybe students that are looking into your program kind of, yes, if they have stressors in their life, your goal isn't to make their internship another stressor by any means, which I think is good. And
I think, when you look back, like we were talking about our history, Matt and I have become family over the years, we vacation together, we hang out outside of work constantly. And I think that it translates into our program and how we treat our interns, like they're just kind of an extension of the family that we, created for ourselves. And we understand that life happens, like we totally get it. And we don't want, like you said, to put any more stress on someone who's already going through something so stressful. Like we'll work at whatever pace that intern needs to work at. And if they need to take some time off and then come back and really hit the ground running, we'll do whatever we can to make sure that happens for them.
Definitely. And kind of adding on to that flexibility aspect that your program has, I was kind of looking into your website and I saw, and you did that with that one intern that had that only done in 6 months. So do you have any other types of experiences that students are coming in with that would allow them to receive credit for certain hours for the internship?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a prior learning program that if you have certain work experience there, like say you work in a kitchen as a dietary supervisor, right? It doesn't make any sense for you to then go and find another kitchen to volunteer to do the exact same job you've done the last couple of years, right? And that doesn't benefit you in any way. And we'd like to get you out sooner. I can tell you from personal experience, when I did my internship, I was just flat broke, and my girlfriend at the time is now my wife. She was kind of on me to finish my, my thesis and study for the RD exam. And, you have all that inertia against you where you're kind of afraid. But I had to put myself out there, and I had to really buckle down to get that done. And I appreciate when an intern wants to get done quickly, because, we have some interns that are supporting their entire families, or we have others that have, they've had interesting personal experiences led up to this position. It's not made them financially stable, and that they really sacrificed a lot to get to this program, and they may want to get out of there and start working as soon as possible. So we're we encourage everybody to apply for the prior learning, and I take a look at every one of these applications to make sure that getting this prior learning is going to benefit you for passing the RD exam, and just getting that kind of career experience.
Gotcha. And so can you kind of give an example? And you did mention like the dietary supervisor example, but can you give maybe like an example of, oh, they had this many hours doing this thing that transferred over to this many hours for the internship?
Yeah, it's a one-to-one thing. I mean, if you work an hour as a dietary supervisor, we're going to give you an hour of credit for it. If you're a diet aide or a diet clerk and you've got experience working in a kitchen, and a lot of times in a hospital, if you're a diet aide or diet clerk, you're taking orders, you're running trays, but you're not really involved too much in food production, food preparation, or ordering. We can get you the credit for it, but it's not going to benefit you. So we really highly encourage you to go out and get that, still get that experience, and then save the prior learning more for like an emergency basis, like when a global pandemic hits and everybody's scrambling for a rotation because the entire world dropped all their interns at once. Then certain compromises had to be made, but we really try to encourage people, get the experiential learning in there, because it's just going to benefit you to pass the RD exam. It's going to benefit us.
And that's always our ultimate goal, right? Is to get these interns to pass the RD exam. So, we're going to look at a job description. We're going to look at letters from supervisors to really ensure that the prior learning that they're applying for is going to benefit them when it comes to the RD exam at the end. But we do encourage them to apply for it. It's great to, we can have 250 hours of prior learning applied to your internship, which only leaves 750 hours to be completed during those 10 months, which is, very easily doable. It's even something that can be done in a semi-part-time basis if they needed to.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We go after a lot of interns that have work experience, not just in the the dietary field, but people that work high-paced jobs, especially like bartenders and servers in like a fast-paced restaurant. We're really into that because those people show a lot of hustle, and those are difficult jobs. And the fact that they can manage a job with terrible hours, terrible working conditions, you're on your feet constantly, and then you come home, do homework, go to school, maybe raise a family. That's the perfect intern for us, right? Sure, your grades not be a 4.0 because you're exhausted from working 12 hours, but you've shown that that you can, you can work under adverse conditions and you can put in the hours, and that's really what we're into. But graduated with their degree in nutrition, and then they work for WIC as a degree nutritionist. And if you work for WIC for at least 160 hours as a degree nutritionist, that's a great way to get your community hours handled.
So you mentioned about like you kind of look for interns that are willing to hustle, work really hard, and work under adverse conditions. And I'm sure with the 2024 graduate degree requirements, that is not going to be a very like different experience of having to hustle or grind really super hard. And so with the 2024 requirements and with you guys being a standalone dietetic internship, are you guys going to partner with any graduate programs, or are you going to change your requirements given the 2024 graduate changes?
So we have made a little bit of a change to our requirements. So all interns that are accepted into our program either have to have already earned a master's degree or be enrolled in a current master's degree program. So that's the big change. And yes, as a standalone, we've partnered with 2 different universities, online universities, University of Alabama, as well as, I was reading this one. Rosalind Franklin University. So they both work with us, and essentially will give Nutrition Ink intern applicants kind of a, what's the word I'm looking for?
Preferential treatment?
Preferential, not, I guess.
A little bit.
They have an easier time getting into their program if they're going to be coordinated with us as well. So that's kind of how we're doing it this year. We're really anxious to see how this next year goes. Like Matt was saying, we've already seen a decrease in the number of applicants. So we'll see how all that works. If we have to, adjust, then we'll adjust however we need to. But students are going to be probably, working a master's program as well as an internship. So we will definitely take that into consideration when it comes to flexibility. I foresee some taking a little bit longer than the 10 months to finish, which is, this is totally going to be fine. We're just going to have to roll with it and see how things play out next year.
Yeah. What we can do to help the interns this coming year if they're doing a master's is, traditionally we don't let them start doing rotations until September, but we've been discussing maybe letting them start early, during the summer after, basically after they've been accepted. And then, that just gives them even more time to get done before the next class starts. And, because we always owe it to the current class to give them, the most attention we have, right? And which is why we really encourage our interns to finish on time or early, because you paid good money to have us, and you should have our undivided attention, not be splitting us with 2 classes.
Yeah, and so with you saying that students can also do your internship paired with the master's degree, do you have any recommendations or advice for students that are interested in applying for your program rather soon, but they don't have that master's degree yet? Do you have any advice for certain master degrees that they should get in conjunction with yours, like in-person, online type of graduate degree, things like that?
I mean, I think if you're trying to accomplish them both at once, an online one makes the most sense, just because you're typically, it's going to be a more flexible schedule, and going to be easier to work around the work schedule and the study schedule. So that one makes the most sense to me. Now, Ascend says it does not necessarily have to be a degree in nutrition. So say, each intern is going to have to figure out really what their career choice is going to be. And I know that's a lot to ask of somebody who's 22. I mean, how old are we now? We're 25-ish, yeah, something like that. I didn't figure out what I wanted to be until 2 weeks ago. So if we're asking somebody here, you're 22, 23 years old, now go get yourself into a ton of debt in this master's program and choose exactly which career path you're going to go. I mean, that's unfortunate for the intern, but some people, they know, and maybe a master's in nutrition isn't exactly the dream career path. They want to do something more business. You can do an MBA, no problem. And there's tons and tons of online MBAs out there to get that done. But we're going to see how this next year plays out. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, and definitely like a realm of flexibility on both the student and you guys' end. But I think it's great how we're highlighting this for your program, because we have had programs in the past and it really does kind of dismantle the belief that on the student's end, oh, like that 50% chance of matching to your first like pick, or kind of being like, oh, all dietetic internships are competitive. We've heard with the most dietetic internships, like with the interviewing, that there are more empty spots for students than there are programs are not fulfilling all the spots that they need for their program. And so I think it's I do hope, I mean, of course, I hope that you guys get all your spots filled, and I hope that with the new 2024 changes that it works out great for you guys. But I think it's also good for the students to know, hey, like, don't be afraid to apply for internships that you want to apply to, because they probably want you more than you probably think that they want you.
For sure. It's always like not shocking, but to us every year, like when it comes down to the interviews and the DICUS applications and the matching days, like it's nerve-wracking for us. Like we feel like we need to sell ourselves to the interns, like, hey, you know, we're a great program, you should apply to us. And every year we do second round matching, like we're reaching out to people who have not been matched and saying, hey, we got spots, do you want to talk with us and see if maybe we would be a good fit? Like, you know, we really hustle to get our 35 spots filled every year.
Absolutely.
So,
and we want interns, good interns, so bad that we don't even charge an application fee. We want there to be no barriers to people applying to our program.
yeah, even if we're like a safety school, you know what I mean? Like, hey, let's just apply because they don't charge. Let's just see what happens. And maybe, you know, they don't get into their first or second choice, and maybe we're their third, and you know, it happens. And I think a lot of the times when that happens, we end up being a really great experience for them, even for students who didn't think distance was for them. They just, you know, like I said, maybe they didn't get into their first choice and they come to us, and they usually have a really good experience.
Yeah, there's a lot of stigma out there for distance, about people. They think it's going to be too hard or it's too daunting, and they don't understand like how much support that they get from a program such as ours. And I can't speak for other distance programs because I don't know, but we really highly support these interns through every step of the way. Some interns want to be left alone, that's fine. Others need their hand held and they need to have a deadline for every single thing, and Elissa will drag them through kicking and screaming. And you know, I did a traditional program as a coordinated master's, and you know, my rotations were given to me. And when a rotation is given to you, you kind of walk into a facility with a little different attitude than if you had to make the phone calls yourself. You had to establish the relationship with the preceptor. You had to put yourself out there, right? You really have to, you know, kind of, you know, you have to be a little more vulnerable as an intern when you're doing a cold call versus, you know, your program director says you're going to go here for, you know, from this day to this day, good luck. And I really feel that our interns come out far more prepared than the ones that don't have that, you know, that demand on them. You know, it made it too easy almost. And not to say ours is that hard. We've never had an intern actually not get all the rotations, but you know, it does take a little more.
It's a little extra step.
Yeah, it's another step, and it's kind of scary at first, you know, when you're first doing it and you're getting told no a lot. And I always tell the interns during our orientation that after my rotations were done, after I got my RD, I put in 100 applications for different jobs all over Southern California. As a new grad, I got 3 callbacks. So it was just an immense amount of rejection just to get a job. And I foolishly thought that I was going to be swimming in job offers, you know, like, hey, I'm great. Right? I got my math. Who wouldn't want this, right? I got my master's degree, right? I'm the man, right? No, nobody wanted me. I'm a new grad.
Not the man.
No, I was not the man. No, and nobody wants a new grad, right? And so our interns already come through with this experience, and it's, you know, their interview processes go better, and I don't know, they come out so much stronger. I love that when we look back at our interns during our interviews and we see the ones that they were terrified during the interview process, right? And sometimes I'll, you know, like when I see an intern's like super scared and nervous, I'll tell them, you know, first question, I want you to recite the Krebs cycle backwards, right? And total joke, I don't even know the Krebs cycle anymore, okay? You guys will never use the Krebs cycle. Any potential intern out there, you will never use it your entire career. They're lying to you. And and we see them, they start off scared and, and then by the end, they're just confident.
Mhm.
And they're professional.
Mhm.
They're ready to really, really face the world. And it's a huge step up because, I was terrified during my internship and I came into my first job completely unconfident in myself. I thought, like, I don't belong here. You meet your, preceptors and they seem so confident. They have so much skill. And then like you think, what have I done the last 4 years of my life? I learned nothing. And until 6 months on the job when you're ready to chew nails and it's no problem. You're an old salty vet by that point. But our interns, they get to kind of they learn that a lot better on the job just by putting themselves out there and in those positions that a traditional intern would not.
Yeah, and all I can think of is like with what you mentioned, they get more skill being that vulnerable, stepping outside of their comfort zone, because if anything, it's like them prepping for when they apply for jobs, because you're gonna have to get vulnerable applying for those real like big RD jobs. So you might as well start that early as not even an intern yet, but kind of like securing those sites, because it's almost like securing your short like little blip into what it would be like on the job. And so I think that's a great thing to highlight about distance internships. And I'm really glad that you included the support that you still get in a distance internship, because one thing also that I did want to cover is you already did touch on it a little bit, but like what other ways you support your interns aside from that flexibility aspect and, like other things.
So, not too long ago, my husband came up with a slogan for our internship, right?
He's a smart guy.
This one day we're heading to lunch and he said, it'd be great if you guys used distance never felt so close. Right. And so we were like, brilliant, beautiful, we love it, right? So I think what we do is we reach out all the time. All the interns will at minimum have a monthly check-in phone call with Matt. And that's just to ensure that they're on the right track. If they have any questions when it comes to any of the clinical aspects that they're doing, he's, a great resource, but that's not the only time they get to talk to him. They have access to us literally 24/7. They have our personal cell phone numbers. They have, I set up Zoom meetings with anybody who wants to discuss anything. They want to, go over how to do the end of rotation paperwork again. We'll do it. Our orientation is done all online. So we have videos that they have access to throughout the whole entire internship that they can go back to review, how to do certain things. We send out a newsletter every month that goes over all the frequently asked questions that I get. So if I get the same question 2 or 3 times, I'm going to address it in the newsletter. So it's there for everybody to read. We have a Facebook group that we keep for each class that we kind of use more as a
community.
Yeah, like, we're going to show, share pictures of the interns at different rotations. And here's, a poster that I did for a school district that I'm working at, and we'll congratulate people when they, do great things or finish the program or get their RD. And, like I said, we're just available to them all the time. We have some interns who are really great at staying in communication with us, and they'll give me a call or a text and just say, hey, I want to just update you on my schedule this week. And then I have others that we don't hear from for a while that we have to reach out to and just say, hey, do you need us for anything? Like, how are things going? Like, we keep an eye on their schedule so we know where they are. And if we see like, hey, they have 2 weeks off and they're not really doing anything, we can reach out and say, hey, here's some projects maybe you want to think about working on so you can continue to earn hours or competencies. So, I think, what else do we do for these interns?
Well, she's kind of underplaying what she does. She talks to the interns constantly. Like she said, I have my monthly check-ins with everybody. I do a lot of texting with the interns. They seem more comfortable texting me all the time, and that's fun. But yeah, you're talking to them daily.
Yeah.
I mean, she gets a lot of intern calls, and she's really great about just being nurturing to these interns, right? And especially, some of the ones, like not to beat the dead horse about COVID, but during COVID, right? A lot of people developed mental issues, right? The isolation, the stress, the uncertainty. And then I started getting a lot more calls that weren't dealing with clinical aspects. It was more coping. Like, how do we get through this? How are we like I'm freaking out here. And one thing I always tell them is we've probably seen this before and we can figure out a solution, right? And if we haven't seen it, we'll figure something out, right? Ascend does give us a lot of leeway on how to get an intern through the program. They have certain rules that are very strict, and they have other ones that are, more like suggestions, right? So we can always find a way. And I always try to just demystify the experience for the intern, because they see their own experience in this program, right? They don't see us guiding 35 people through it every year, right? So when it's just your own experience, and you're in a city that's far away from us, and you may not have any interns close by, and it seems kind of, I don't want to say spooky, but it's just a little foreign and murky. And so I try to just let them know, like, it's normal what you're going through. And other people who have gone through something similar have done this or that or this, and this worked for them or that didn't work for them, and maybe you should try this. And we really just try to kind of guide them through as much as we can, but let them learn on their own, because that's the growth process, and we're heavily invested in the growth process here.
And sometimes we'll get those interns that and it happens, like you just get to a wall, like you just don't think you can go on anymore. And we've had a few who called, in tears, saying, like, I don't think this is for me anymore. Like, I don't think I can do this. And, he'll go through the logical aspect of why you want to continue with the program. And then I'll remind them, like, hey, we picked you for a reason. We 100% are behind you and believe that you can do this. We know you can do this. So you tell us what you need from us to get you through. And sometimes they just need to hear that from somebody, because in their mind, they think, I'm done. I can't, move past whatever the hurdle might be. But we do everything we can to let our interns know, like, we are here to help you. If you have a quick 2-second question, text us right away. We don't want our interns or our preceptors waiting on us for an answer. Like, we're here for you.
And we're not going to let you quit anyway. So let's just get that out of the way. You're going to finish. We're going to get it.
And I like how you guys, like, with the support aspect, you hear a lot of internships, like when they say support, it's like, oh, we do weekly classes, we do, like, they have a whole structured support system, but there's not, everyone needs there's nothing wrong with the structured support system by any means. But what I like is how you guys kind of shine a new light on support, of being like, emotional support is also important just as much as the technical support. And, like, it's really good to hone in on both and not think one is better over the other. So I think it's good to highlight that the way that you support your interns, yes, it is it's good to just have that different, or like kind of new light of support, so that your interns don't feel like they're just another, one student out of that 35. Like, they are a person and you want them to succeed, which I think is great.
That's one thing that we've always kind of highlighted, is even during our application process, is we look at an intern as a whole individual. They're never just a GPA. They're never just a personal statement to us. To us, the interview is probably the most important part, because we want to get to know you. We want you to get to know us. Our internship's it's very non-traditional, and the way we run things is a little, I don't want to say loose, but it's casual. It's a lot more casual, and so that might be for everybody, but everybody needs something different. Like, I think the fact that, Matt and I are very different people. We work very differently, and we're just, we have my husband, his wife, our children. They're all just individual, unique people that need different things. And our interns are the same way. We may need some who need that emotional support throughout the internship, and if I can send them a little, GIF every morning that says, you got this, because that's what they need, then that's what I'll do. And we have other ones who need more of the technical support. They need to know exactly when things are done. They need the deadlines, whatever it may be. So we're ready to be whatever it is that they need from us.
I have an intern right now that I have to remind her once a week that, she was one of our best interviewees ever, and that, she's here for a reason. She's having a bit of a crisis of confidence right now, and we're working through that one.
So I think it's great how you guys offer support in those different ways, and how you mentioned every person is different in what they need for an internship. And so kind of switching gears a little bit into, the layout of your internship, it being distance, kind of alleviating, and what you said, demystifying the certain kind of scary parts of a distance internship. How far out in advance do students need to have a site secured after they're accepted for the internship?
So we don't have a specific deadline for sites being secured. Obviously, the ones who can get it done faster and get a schedule set in stone before, rotations start, are going to have an easier time. But we also know that that's not always, doable. Like sometimes we'll get people who are calling and they'll say, well, call us back in 3 months. We don't know if we can take an intern. Call us back closer to the time you want to start. And so we don't need our potential interns having that stress of, I have to have my schedule in by February, when they have people telling them, oh no, call me closer more to August or something like that. We also provide our interns with a list of preceptors. So we've been doing this program for about 7-8 years now. And so we have a list of probably 600 preceptors that have taken Nutrition Ink interns before. And we do our best to send our interns out prepared, that they go in and are professional, they're well liked, so that when the next class comes in and they call and say, hey, I'd like to do an internship, I'm from Nutrition Ink, they say, oh, Nutrition Ink interns are great, we'll gladly take you. And then half the paperwork's already done. So that's a really great resource that, we give them to kind of alleviate a lot of that stress.
And that's one reason why we take the interview process so seriously, is because it lets us see, are you a person with relatively normal social skills? Yeah, I don't want to say super normal because neither of us are normal, but normal enough social skills where you're not going to go in there and drive your preceptor or their team crazy. I was a preceptor before I became a program director, and we would get some interns in every once in a while that were just odd, right? And they would kind of disrupt the entire milieu of your whole department. And as a preceptor and as a leader in your department, there's really nothing more important than keeping your own team happy, right? And if your own teams, if they're miserable, they're going to make your life miserable as a preceptor. And then, the only thing you can do is send the intern packing, and then you think, I'm never taking interns from that program again. And so that's why we keep such a strong emphasis on this interview, so we know that not only are you going to make our program, you're going to represent our program well, but the future interns are counting on you to represent the program well. And we have, during our orientation, we spend a significant amount of time just on professionalism. We don't do any kind of clinical in our orientation. It's much easier to train someone clinically than it is to train them in social skills or how to just be an adult. And we have former interns, they give a talk on how to get preceptors and just how to carry yourself as a professional now, because now you're in the professional world, school's officially over, even though this, it's still an internship, and you think, okay, this is school-ish, but no, this is a 18-week job interview with a potential employer. So we want you to be able to carry yourself with confidence, with poise, and just acting as a working professional that represents not only yourself but us and even the dietetics profession in general.
And that's another reason why we stay so connected and have interns have access to us all the time, because we really want them to step into that rotation feeling confident about whatever it may be, whether it be the paperwork that the preceptor has to sign, what CRDNs that they want to complete there. And so we'll sit down and we go over all of it at orientation, but we understand that that's a lot of information to throw at somebody on one day. And so we tell them there are no dumb questions. If you need to come and ask us the same question 4 times, I'll explain it to you 4 times until you get it, because we want them to be able to feel confident walking in there.
Yeah, and everyone learns at a different pace and a different style. So we're not going to sit there and point fingers and laugh.
Yeah.
Not to your face, at least.
Yeah, and I think it's you guys have really highlighted a lot of great aspects of your program, ranging from the flexibility, understanding, and the support that you guys offer. But do you guys find a commonality with the a common thing that the interns like the most about your program, or things that you've heard after they graduated?
I mean, it's going to sound like we're full of ourselves, but I think just working with Matt and I think just the idea of having the access to us and, just knowing that they have the support from us and, us just being there to be able to solve any problems that come up as quickly as we can. I think that's what they would say.
I think the single biggest thing that I nag at the interns is to call us more, right? You've already paid us your money. Right? Logically, we would think, okay, well, now we've gotten paid, stop bugging us. But no, we want you guys to bug us. That's what we want. Because you're going to be more successful the more you reach out to us. during my undergrad, one thing I found is the more I went to office hours with the professor and bugged him and her, the better I did in the class. And we're kind of hoping for the same thing from the intern. Like you paid a good amount of hard-earned money to be here. Use us, right? This is literally our job.
Yeah.
This is what we do. And I have two very young children. Her kids are a little older, but it's nice talking to the interns, like hey, you're talking to an adult here. It's pretty cool. I'm not talking to a little kid about Legos. So it's a nice change for me. And I enjoy just the guiding aspect of what I do. If I can help you as an intern avoid some of the dumb mistakes that I made as not just an intern, but early on in my career, I don't know. That's win-win for all of us.
And we do our best to remain like approachable. Like we don't want our interns to be afraid of us or dread to have to call us for any reason. One thing that we tell them all the time is we had noticed over the first few years, anytime an intern would call, they would start the conversation by saying, I'm sorry I called you, I'm sorry to bug you. And we, both of us right away will say, never say sorry. No. This is our job. We enjoy doing this and we're very happy that you called us.
Yes. Like a small personal failure when an intern, we're talking and they're talking about how they've been worried about this problem. I was like, I've been worried about this for weeks now. And it's like, why didn't you call me weeks ago? I promise you, we're going to feel better after this phone call.
Yeah.
And I think it's great to kind of start, again, I feel like with your internship, you want to start them early with, being proactive, taking initiative, asking those questions, especially during a period where it's more than okay to make mistakes. And it's actually probably one of the safest places to make mistakes because you have that support system from you guys. You have that, 600 plus list of preceptors that are familiar with your program. They have a lot of great support systems that allow them to have that room for flexibility, that room for learning, and kind of, again, like dismantling the fact that you have to be perfect, because that's definitely not the case. And I think, and I definitely believe you guys are giving this impression where it shouldn't be the case to be perfect. You shouldn't try to be perfect throughout the internship, because I'm sure that this is the time where you discover your interests, like what works for you, and also like cultivating that professionalism. And I'm glad that you guys focus on that at orientation, because it goes to show that you guys care about your interns, not just during, but after the program, and that you're investing in their future as well, which I think is really nice.
Yeah, 100%. One thing with our interns, like they'll have to submit items to us to be reviewed, and a lot of times we'll have to send things back for revisions. And I can always tell when they start to feel like bad, like, oh, I can't get this right. And then I remind them, like, hey, this is the time to learn. This is I'm not angry that you didn't get it right. We're working together to make sure that you understand what needs to be done. There's no big grades, there's not a GPA involved with us. Like, this is just the learning process, and we're here to guide you through it. And we do really love to support our interns even afterwards. Like, if you follow us on Instagram, you'll see sometimes we'll highlight graduates that are maybe doing their own consulting or counseling, or have a great Instagram channel where they're sharing recipes. We love to highlight stuff. And then I think another thing for us, because as well as the internship program, Matt and I also run two dietetic consulting companies. And so what we love to do is to hire our graduates. So once if we have a graduate that's in the area where we need a dietitian, we're more than happy to hire on a brand new RD and be able to put them go from an intern to becoming an RD and then putting them on the payroll. I think that's one of
oh, that's your favorite.
That's my favorite.
Yeah,
I love when that happens.
Yeah, and I think that's awesome too. Just like, and not only investing in their future wherever they go, but it's also like, hey, you could come with us. And I think that that's really great. And so we've covered so many things about your program, like the soft skills that you want the interns to develop, including the hard technical skills, and how you treat the interns, support the interns, and just a bunch of great things about your program. And so for any of the listeners or people watching this, I'm sure that they're probably either planning on applying to supervised practices, or they're a little nervous about distance internships or just internships in general. And so to make it a final note, what advice would you give a student or a dietetic student regarding supervised practice programs or applying to programs in the future?
I would say start now, right? If you're not applying this year, start finding preceptors for when you are going to apply. make those connections. If you have a local area dietetics, district, join it, meet dietitians in your area. If you can get a job in a kitchen, even if it's a day a month or a per diem or a part-time, get that job, get them in with the dietitian there. Just meet people in the industry. And if you're going to meet people, also make sure you wow people, because we have such a tiny field that, if you have a distinct last name like I do, then you better be amazing, because the word will get around quickly that if you don't have what it takes. And really put yourself out there and just network, and it's going to help you so much more in the future. And start making those phone calls, put yourself out there, talk to dietitians, and just be blunt and say, I'm planning on applying for an internship in a year or two. Will you precept me? And a phone call is always better than an email. I know an email is easier, but as a preceptor, you're going to get 10 emails, and it's so much easier to ignore an email when you're a busy preceptor than it is to ignore a phone call. And especially when someone calls you, they're personable, they're confident, and it's like, man, I gotta have this person. Yes, I will definitely take you as an intern. And it's just it's a numbers game too. A lot of our interns freak out, like, the ones who have the least amount of success are the ones who do the least amount of work. They've made 3 phone calls and they can't figure out why no one took them. Well, yeah, you need to make 300 phone calls, or put yourself out there, expand your geographic area that you're willing to drive. We're Southern California based, and when I was doing clinicals, I was driving 2.5 hours each way in LA traffic just to get to them. It was awful. It was just pure misery. I used to not be a morning person, and here I am getting up early. I'm sitting in traffic, and then I'm being abused all day. But learning all this new stuff as an intern, and then driving home in more traffic, right? It was the worst. But I tell them, we all went through it. It's a temporary thing. You'll look fondly upon the suffering later on in life, and just put the effort out there. That's the single biggest difference between a successful intern and a non-successful intern, is just the amount of effort you're willing to put out there. And that's why, again, coming back to the interview process, questions we ask, we're trying to gauge, do you have what it takes to be a self-starter? Are you willing to put the effort out there, or are you wanting things to just be kind of handed to you? And we're not a program where everything's going to be handed to you. We make it as easy as possible to accomplish our goals, given the confines of a distance internship. But if you want something done, for you, then go get a coordinator program. You can have 170,000 student loan debt like I have. So, or you can do us for far cheaper, build a couple skills along the way that are going to make you better in the long run anyway.
And I would think it's the same for internships. If you're starting out and looking ahead, and maybe 2 or 3 years, you're going to start applying internships, look into them, call them and ask questions. Because I can tell you that the ones that have called me, their name sticks out. And as soon as I see their application, we're like, oh, I remember this person. They called me a year ago and, had questions about the program. We definitely remember them. I always offer to read people's personal statement before they turn it into DICUS. Whether them calling, asking about the program. Sometimes we have virtual open houses where people can come and ask about what we do. And I always kind of offer to do that as well, so that they feel a little more confident when they turn that application in.
And she reads every single personal statement and then makes notes for me, because I don't have the attention span to read a 20 personal statements. So she gives me the clip notes, and
Yeah, and that's an awesome collaboration that you two have. And I just want to say thank you guys for taking time to talk about your internship, how you guys started it, how you guys have really made it grow, and seeing the support that you give for your interns. And so I know that the listeners or the people watching this, they're going to learn a lot about your program and both of you guys. And again, thank you so much for taking time to talk about your program.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for having us, Jenna.